Athena Strand was born on May 25, 2015, in the small town of Duncan, Oklahoma. After her parents divorced, her father relocated to Texas while Athena continued living with her mother. Despite the separation, her father stayed actively involved in her life, visiting her regularly, and at times, her mother would bring Athena to him, as the two maintained a friendly relationship and both wanted Athena to spend time with her dad. In time, both parents remarried, and Athena gained two younger sisters, with whom she shared a deep connection, always eager to spend time together. She was a cheerful and lively child, full of positivity, who loved playing outdoors. In late 2022, at the age of 7, Athena temporarily moved in with her father in Texas until after the new year, when she would return to her mother in Oklahoma. During this period, she attended a local elementary school. Her father's home was located in a quiet, rural setting, surrounded by fields and wooded areas. Athena loved exploring nature with her dad and had a warm relationship with his new wife, Elizabeth. On November 30th, after returning from school around 4:15 p.m., her father and grandfather were away hunting, leaving her at home with Elizabeth. That evening, Athena was in a low mood, which led to an argument between her and Elizabeth. Upset, Athena retreated to her room, while Elizabeth went to the kitchen to make dinner. About 20 minutes later, Elizabeth called for her but discovered that Athena was missing. She searched the house thoroughly and even checked outside but found no sign of her. Hoping she might have gone to visit nearby relatives, who lived only a few hundred yards away, Elizabeth contacted them, but they hadn't seen Athena either. She then called her husband, who instructed her to immediately alert the police. At around 6:40 p.m., Elizabeth dialed 911, and officers arrived within 14 minutes. She explained what had happened, suggesting that Athena might have run away after their disagreement. Relatives, however, doubted this explanation, pointing out that Athena was only 7 years old, had never strayed far from home before, and was afraid of the dark. Initially, police were suspicious of Elizabeth because she waited about 40 minutes before reporting Athena missing. Yet, after hearing how she had searched thoroughly and contacted relatives, they determined her account seemed credible. Authorities quickly launched a search, scouring the nearby woods and fields within several kilometers of the house despite the darkness. Their leading theory was that Athena had wandered off and become lost, so they concentrated their resources there. Although they also considered the possibility of abduction, no evidence supported that line of thought. There were no indications of forced entry into the house. Elizabeth hadn't heard any unusual noises or cries, and none of the neighbors noticed anything suspicious that evening. The search was joined by Athena's relatives along with concerned townspeople eager to help. Her mother rushed over immediately after learning of her daughter's disappearance. Despite searching until nearly 5 a.m., they found no sign of Athena. The effort was further hindered by the area's difficult terrain, especially in the darkness. At 7 a.m., the police resumed the search with additional officers. As the news spread across the county, hundreds of volunteers joined in, some using horses and ATVs, while authorities deployed drones and helicopters equipped with thermal cameras. Yet, by the end of that day, Athena was still missing. The police began to fear for her safety, particularly because winter had already begun. Although Texas is in the south, temperatures during those days dropped to about 50 degrees. Considering that Athena was dressed in light clothing, surviving in those conditions would have been extremely difficult for her. On the third day, the search persisted, with authorities expanding the radius to several miles around the home. They also began examining the possibility of criminal involvement. Even though there had been no initial evidence of abduction, investigators grew increasingly doubtful that Athena had left on her own. Despite searching miles in every direction, no trace of her was found. The idea that a 7-year-old could have walked so far without encountering anyone seemed very unlikely. Investigators worked to identify everyone who had been near the house that evening, though this was a difficult task because the property was surrounded by trees and set several dozen yards from the main road. Adding to the challenge, there were no surveillance cameras in the vicinity. Then, the police obtained their first breakthrough. They discovered that a package had been delivered to Athena's home that evening by a FedEx courier. When investigators contacted FedEx, they learned the delivery was handled by a third-party contractor. Tracing the responsible organization, they pinpointed the van assigned to that route. Fortunately, those vehicles were equipped with cameras, and authorities quickly requested the footage from November 30th. Reviewing the video, investigators saw disturbing evidence. The driver was shown pulling a girl who looked like Athena into the van. The man was soon identified as 31-year-old Tanner Horner, and officers quickly went to his residence. He was arrested under suspicion of abduction and taken in for interrogation. Once confronted with the video evidence, Horner began to talk. He admitted that he had delivered a package to Athena's home that evening. While reversing his van, he claimed to have felt a bump and went to check. There, he found Athena on the ground, realizing he had accidentally struck her. However, when he looked closer, he noticed she had not suffered any serious injuries. The girl was conscious, not crying, and even spoke to him. According to Horner, she identified herself by saying her name was Athena. Unsure of how to handle the situation, he panicked. He placed her inside his van, trying to figure out what to do next. Athena continued speaking and mentioned that she would tell her father about what had happened, which made Horner even more distressed. He feared that if adults learned about the incident, he could face serious consequences. What he told investigators afterward left them stunned. Horner admitted that he decided the only solution was to kill her. He claimed he first attempted to break her neck, but when that failed, he strangled her. He then took her body to a river near a nearby town and disposed of it. Although his story seemed questionable, Horner gave the investigators the precise location where he had left Athena, and when officers searched the site, they indeed found her body. News of the child's murder devastated her family and horrified thousands across the nation. By then, the case had already gained widespread media attention, and the cruelty of the crime left people in shock. After the discovery, Horner was officially charged with both abduction and murder. While awaiting the medical examiner's findings, detectives began digging into his background to understand his motives. His explanation appeared unbelievable. He claimed he had barely hit Athena with his van, that she was not seriously injured, but out of fear of possible consequences, likely nothing more than losing his job, he chose to kill her. Investigators found this reasoning highly suspicious. Their search revealed that Horner was engaged and the father of a child born just a year earlier. Alongside his delivery work, he occasionally drove for Uber. He was also a musician, playing in a band that performed at small venues around Fort Worth. His social media showed pictures with his child, snapshots from musical gigs, and everyday moments, nothing that painted him as a violent predator. Prior to his arrest, he had no criminal record, and police found no evidence of violent tendencies in his past. Only 2 months before Athena's death, he had posted photos of family time with his son and grandparents. The medical examiner's report, which authorities hoped would clarify the true sequence of events, took several weeks. In the meantime, Athena's parents filed a lawsuit against FedEx and the contracting company, accusing them of negligence in hiring Horner. They demanded stricter screening processes to prevent similar tragedies. A heartbreaking detail then emerged. The package Horner had delivered that evening was a Christmas gift for Athena, a Barbie doll she had long wished for. When the medical examiner's report was finally released, it raised even more questions. The findings showed that Athena had died within the first hour after being abducted. Her body bore multiple injuries of different severity, with the official cause of death determined as asphyxiation. Yet, Horner's account still seemed implausible. Detectives initially believed he had taken the girl with the intent to sexually assault her, but the autopsy revealed no evidence of sexual abuse. This contradicted the theory they considered most likely. None of the investigators truly believed Horner's version of events, as it lacked logic. They instead speculated that he had indeed planned to assault Athena but that something interrupted his plan. According to this theory, after arguing with her stepmother, Athena had gone outside into the yard. At that moment, Horner arrived to deliver the package and spotted her. According to this theory, Horner spotted an opportunity to act on his twisted urges. Athena was alone outside the house, surrounded by woods and completely hidden from public view. He may have tricked her into the van or even deliberately struck her to make it easier to force her inside without resistance. What followed remains uncertain. Investigators outlined two main scenarios that seemed most plausible. In the first, Horner intended to take the girl far from the home to carry out his plans, but she either screamed or tried to flee. Fearing exposure, he killed her and disposed of the body in the river. In the second, Horner may have engaged in deviant acts that didn't require direct contact, which would explain why medical examiners found no proof of sexual assault. Before long, detectives uncovered an indirect but startling clue that suggested a sexual motive was indeed possible. Though Horner had no prior convictions before Athena's murder, a rarity, as most killers escalate gradually from lesser crimes, police discovered disturbing allegations from his past. After weeks of carefully investigating his history and interviewing relatives, friends, and acquaintances, authorities finally uncovered testimony from several people who claimed to have been victimized by him during childhood. Investigators kept their identities and details confidential, but one alleged victim stated Horner assaulted her 9 years earlier. In addition, he was charged with 3 separate counts of sexual assault involving minors back in 2013. It remains unclear whether those charges involved one victim or 3 different ones. Yet that was not all. Another young woman had long spoken publicly about how Horner assaulted her when she was 16. She had even shared her story online, warning others that he was dangerous, but her claims went largely ignored at the time. After Athena's murder, her words resurfaced and gained credibility, painting a much darker picture of Horner's past. He will now face separate trials for these 4 incidents in addition to the proceedings over Athena's death. Another disturbing detail added to the growing profile of his character. Once his name was made public, internet users discovered his TikTok account. Among the few videos, the last, recorded only weeks before the crime, showed him reacting to a clip of a bug trapped under a glass and slowly poisoned with spray. As the insect died, Horner displayed an unsettling expression, as though he derived genuine enjoyment from the suffering. If he truly was a sadist who found pleasure in death, his story about killing Athena solely out of fear of minor consequences seemed even more unbelievable. Authorities, convinced of the brutality and cruelty of the crime, announced they would pursue the death penalty. Horner retained a lawyer, who advised him to retract his confession and plead not guilty, though such a strategy is unlikely to spare him. The evidence against him remains overwhelming: surveillance footage from the van, his own admission leading to the body's recovery, and likely forensic traces such as Athena's DNA inside the van or the killer's genetic material on her clothing and remains. The trial will eventually reveal more, as additional evidence may still be presented. Until then, the public can only follow the case's developments and reflect on this tragic story. If you found this case intriguing, make sure to like and subscribe. We upload new crime case videos every night. Stay tuned and brace yourself for what's coming next.